Yeah. Okay, so we're thinking of a world pre-COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, whichever one you want to imagine. Now think about it. You can just walk up to the store and grab any old spice mixture. But do you know what's in those? I mean, aside from like MSGs, sugars, and unpronounceable ingredients. Ugh. So, let's just make our own. I mean, it's a lot more easy than you think. Plus, it's long-lasting and healthier. So, that being said, let's spice up your life. Welcome to my kitchen. Okay, so first, let's admire my B-Day present to myself, this amazing shirt design by my friend Vinny. Now, you can get this and so many more designs by him by clicking in the link in the description box below. Tell him I sent you. And no, this is not sponsored. Moving on. All right, let's get spicy. So, I have 5 homemade spice mixtures for you, and let me tell you, these are amazing, and you don't have to worry about all the extra stuff in them. Genius. So, I have an Old Bay style seasoning, classic, and then I have an Italian style seasoning, also classic. And then I have a Creole seasoning for those who want something a little spicier. And then I have a Middle Eastern style garam masala, perfect for curry. And then, of course, the best one, all of us ketoans definitely should know this one, ranch. And so I'm gonna give you the dry stuff, and you can use that as a dry rub, and I'll also show you how to make the sauce. So, let's get into it. All right, so for the Old Bay seasoning, we're gonna have a tablespoon of celery salt, a tablespoon of ground bay leaves. And what I did is I just bought some dry bay leaves and then just crushed these up. And then we have 1.5 teaspoons of yellow mustard powder, a teaspoon of ground black pepper, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, a 1/2 teaspoon of regular paprika, a 1/2 teaspoon of white pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cardamom. And then just a pinch of cloves and a pinch of ginger. Then we're just going to mix them all together, and you can just store this in an airtight container until needed. So for the Italian seasoning, we're just going to need 2 tablespoons of dried oregano, 2 tablespoons of dried basil, 2 tablespoons of dried rosemary, 2 tablespoons of dried thyme, 2 tablespoons of dried marjoram, 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, and 1.5 teaspoons of ground sage. And we're just going to mix this all together, put this in an airtight container, and just get ready to use it when you need it. All right, and now we have our Creole seasoning. All right, so to a bowl, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of onion powder and 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of dried oregano, and a tablespoon of dried basil. We're gonna use 1.5 teaspoons of dried thyme and 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper. Then we have 3 tablespoons of regular paprika, and you can do 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, depending on your heat index. 1 teaspoon of celery salt and a tablespoon of salt. Mix that together and put that in an airtight container, and you're good to go. So for our garam masala, we have 1 tablespoon of ground cumin, 1.5 teaspoons of ground coriander or cilantro, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cardamom, 1.5 teaspoons of ground black pepper, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and a 1/2 teaspoon each of ginger, nutmeg, cloves, and turmeric. Of course, we're gonna give that all a really good mix. And again, airtight container, and you're all set. All right, so for the dried portion, you're gonna need 2 teaspoons of dried parsley, 1 teaspoon of dried dill, 1 teaspoon of dried chives, a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, or kind of any salt that you would like, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Then you're just gonna give that a mix, and then you can just put that in an airtight container and set that aside. Now, to make the sauce, you're gonna use 1 cup of mayonnaise, a 1/2 cup of sour cream. I'm going to go ahead and add my dry mixture and just give that a bit of a mix. And then just to get it to a thinner consistency, you can use 1/4 cup of unsweetened almond milk. You could also use coconut milk. You can also use kind of a watered down heavy cream. And we're just going to give that a really, really good mix. And just know that when you put this in the refrigerator, it's gonna thicken up a little bit, so don't worry too much about it. And of course, you'll just want to let this refrigerate for about an hour so that all those flavors get all nice and yummy, and you're good to go. There you go. You have homemade spiced deliciousness in a jar. I hope you get inspiration from my kitchen. Like and subscribe to come back for more. And comment below what your favorite spice mixture is and if there's any spice mixtures that you want me to cover next time. You can connect with me on any of my social media listed below. Thank you bunches for being here, and I'll catch you back here for more deliciousness.